Coming up next, SPNN's Neighborhood News. Hi, I'm Sherine Onukwuwe. Welcome to SPNN's Neighborhood News. On this program, we interview district councils and we go out in the neighborhood and find out what people are talking about. St. Paul has a history of strong community and neighborhood participation. The district council system is a big part of that. There are 17 councils, each representing a different area of St. Paul. The district councils are independent organizations, but they do get some funding from the city as well as other sources like grants and donations. Much of the work being done by the councils is done by volunteers, community members, who want to participate in the life of their neighborhood and their community. On today's show, we talk with representatives from District Councils 1, 13, and 14. Stay with us. We're talking with Betsy Leach from District Council 1. Thanks for joining us, Betsy.
Thanks for having me.
Well, first, Betsy, if you could just tell me about the area in which you represent District Council 1 and, geographically, where is that?
So District 1 is the southeast corner of St. Paul. It's bordered on the east side by McKnight Road, so 3M is our neighbor, the big 3M campus is our neighbor. It goes all the way down to the Mississippi River, along the Mississippi River, up to Warner Road and Highway 61, and then kind of boundaries along Harding High School. The northern boundary then is Minnehaha Avenue on the east side.
So that's a pretty expansive area.
Yes, it is.
What neighborhoods does that include?
Well, it actually is the largest by area of the district councils in the city of St. Paul. And we have 4 neighborhoods that are represented: the Eastview, Conway, Battle Creek, and Highwood Hills neighborhoods. We're the 5th largest in terms of population, but we are the largest in terms of physical area.
Oh, okay. So given that, it's probably a little difficult for my next question, which is to kind of give me an idea of the identity or personality of the district, of District 1.
Well, what I can tell you is that it's characterized by a build out in the 1960s so that it looks like one of the first ring suburbs. So a lot of people don't even think they're still in St. Paul when they're in District 1, but they actually are still in the city of St. Paul. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of natural areas in our district. So the St. Paul section of Battle Creek Park, for example, is in our area. So if people want to visit a park that is more natural looking than, say, Como Park, then Battle Creek is a place to come, and you would be in District 1. It's also kind of characterized by being a bedroom community to the city of St. Paul, the way that it was built. So we don't have a lot of commercial or industrial areas except along the freeway and down along the river. So it's single family homes, but then also large apartment complexes.
So does that kind of create an issue because of the residential versus, people who rent?
It can. We've done a lot of outreach to renters. It's about, like the city of St. Paul, it's about 50% or more people who are renting rather than homeowners. But there is kind of a segregation in terms of where that housing is distributed. So that does tend to make an issue. And what we try to do is we try to send welcome packets to new neighbors who are renters as well as new neighbors who are homeowners, trying to get people to feel like they are belonging to the area.
Mm-hmm. What's some of the work that you all are doing, particularly about equity in District 1?
So we've been doing a lot of stuff internally with our own board so that we try to have a board that is representative of the community that we represent. And we've done a very good job of that. 7 of our 15 members are people of color, which is about, it's not quite what we have in terms of percentage of persons in the neighborhood, but it's very close, and the distribution of the ethnic groups is quite representative of who's actually living here. So we've been doing that internally, but we're also working across boundaries with our sister organizations across the city around a couple of equity issues. One is around transportation. And we are working on a project that'll come around this fall for a gathering of people from across the city to talk about health and transportation and how it relates to equity in people's personal lives, in their community lives, and in the environment. And then we're working on a cross-cultural dialogue project with some of our sister organizations. And so there'll be some dialogues that are going on amongst neighbors in the individual districts. So we're looking forward to having those conversations, letting people learn about who their neighbors are.
So how does, you mentioned health and transportation, and how does that intersect, or how does that impact, how does transportation impact someone's health?
Yeah. So in personal health, it's, we know that people who do a lot more walking or biking have built into their lifestyles exercise, whereas people who would spend a lot of time in automobiles, they don't have that. In community ways, there have been some studies that look about how the impact of exhaust fume, for example, increases asthma rates, and those concentrations of where the freeways are, for example, are going through communities where there's a dominance of people of color traditionally, and so that has an impact. And then economically too, we know that transportation projects really boost the local economy. So we're looking at the Central Corridor, of course, but in our area, we're going to be looking at the Gateway Corridor coming down I-94 and what potential that has for developing a healthy economy. And then, of course, environmentally, you've got pollution that's related to automobiles, not just dealing with asthma rates, but pollution that's affecting the health of the environment, not just individual health. So we're trying to look across all of those different dimensions of health and transportation. We're going to have the Commissioner of Health, State Commissioner of Health, who's going to be doing a keynote speech talking about all these connections. So we're very excited. We've got a lot of resources, and we're really working to include a lot of people in the conversation who have not been included before.
Sure. Who are some of your sister organizations that you mentioned, some of your partners?
Yeah, so in that particular project, all the district councils are going to be involved, but the folks who've been involved in planning is the Hamlin Midway Coalition, St. Anthony Park, and also Matt Groveland, who've been in the planning part, and then District 2, which is just our sister to the north of us on the east side, has also been involved. But we have partners, including the Department of Health, the Department of Transportation, the District Council Collaborative, St. Paul Smart Trips, the University of Minnesota. It's just a huge array of partners. It's been very exciting working on that project.
Great. Well, it is an issue, as you brought up, and what would you like to see happen, or what are some of the ideas that are coming out of the conversation about how to alleviate the issues around transportation and how it adversely impacts health?
Well, I'd say, first of all, just in terms of geographic equity, that we've had a lot of focus on the Central Corridor and the communities along the Central Corridor. And it's time now to look at building out the transportation system so that we have bikeways, we have transit ways in other parts of the city, the west side, the east side of St. Paul, which have been basically neglected in a lot of ways around putting in infrastructure for bicycles and walking, and also the transit. So that's the kind of thing that we're looking at now, hoping that what we will do by looking across the city is to have people realize on the western side of town how important it is to build out these transportation infrastructure on the eastern side of town and on the west side. Because, we don't just live in our neighborhoods, we live in the whole city, we live in the metro area. And if we don't have these connections made, then, it's not good for any of us.
So Talk a little bit about the youth initiatives in particular that you all have going on right now that are continuous to try to reach young people.
Yeah, we have we have a little bit more percentage-wise of youth in our area than the city as a whole. So, you know, we have more youth than the city as a whole in our area. On the east side, that's very true. We also have more seniors in our area than the city as a whole, in percentage-wise. And so what we were trying to realize is that the future of our organization, the future of our neighborhood, has to do with developing a sense of civic engagement amongst our youth. And these youth are predominantly people of color. And so again, they represent the future of what our district is becoming. And so what we want to do is we want to have opportunities for young people to get together and get to know each other, because we don't have a lot of gathering places in our neighborhood. So get to know each other and know that there are other kids who are interested in doing positive things in the neighborhood. So we have a young men's group that was founded by two of our board members, Tim Turner, an African American man in the neighborhood, and Chris Melendez, who is Puerto Rican and who grew up in the neighborhood. And they've developed this group of about 30 kids, ranging in age from 10 to 18, who have been working with the local businesses on projects, who are going to be in the Rondo's Day parade this weekend, coming weekend, and have just been having conversations with leaders about, you know, opportunities that are available to them. What we're trying to do now with our staff member, Ebony, is to have her be developing a young women's group that's comparable to this. And then in addition to that, to develop a youth council that basically mimics what it is that our board of directors does, but from a youth perspective, youth directed, and working on projects that youth are interested in. So we really see this as a way to build power amongst our young people, to give them a voice, because they haven't had a voice in our neighborhood before, and so many of the decisions we're making affect them directly.
So National Night Out, a lot of councils, or do all councils, I guess, participate in National Night Out? What in particular do you all have planned for your National Night Out?
So we're a little bit different than some of the district councils, is that we don't focus so much on the small block club meetings that go on National Night Out. For the past several years, we've done a large community gathering at the Conway Rec Center, focusing on trying to include the apartments that are right around there, and having an opportunity for folks in those apartments to come together and meet neighbors generally. So we have, last year we had about 600 people that showed up at the event. We're planning it again for August 5th. We have music, we have food. One of the local churches that has a Hmong congregation does a free fresh food giveaway. And I think they gave away something like 800 pounds of produce last year. So we're looking forward to that going on again this year. There are activities for young people and so on. So it's not so much focused on the crime and safety, it's focused on who we are as a community and coming together and just celebrating. And we don't have a lot of gathering spaces, as I said before, or community events that are going on. So this is our big event of the year.
How do people get involved in this particular district?
So there's a variety of ways that we can get involved, like the events that we have. There's the National Night Out, there are the community cleanup and that sort of thing that people can get involved in events. We also help people around issues that they have for their particular neighborhoods. They will contact our office and we will try to put them in touch with others or with resources that they need to solve their problems, kind of educate people on how to do for themselves. Then we do have volunteer opportunities in the office and that kind of thing. We have a good internship program with local, especially with Century College students that come in and work with us. So trying to find opportunities for people to do things. But we're really trying to just build a sense of community, make connections amongst people, amongst neighbors. That's our big focus. with this organization.
Well, it sounds like you all are doing a lot of terrific work and meaningful work, especially around the equity transportation project or issue, and
Yeah.
building rich foundations for kids to be able to, not only become involved in, but take leadership.
Take
Um,
leadership.
well, do you have a website or anything? How would people get in touch if they did
Yep.
want to get involved?
We do have a website. It's district1council.org, and it's the number one, not spelled out.
Okay.
And we have a blog as well that you can connect through from our website. We're also on Twitter or on Facebook. It's a Facebook group, not a Facebook page, so people have to basically ask to be invited to join us. But we do make those kind of connections. We try to have that social thing. We're also in Sunrise Shopping Center, so we have a storefront that we share with the police officers on the east side. And this is an opportunity for people who are just walking around and need something to stop in and say hi.
Okay. Well, great. It was wonderful talking to you, and good luck with all the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us, Betsy. Take care.
Thanks so much.
We'll be back. Today joining us is Joanna Anderson with District Council 14. Thanks for joining us, Joanna.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So, Joanna, tell us first, where is McGrovern? What area defines McGrovern?
Sure. So we're bounded by Randolph Avenue to the south, Summit Avenue to the north, and then the river to the west, and Aid Mill Road to the east.
Each neighborhood often has a personality or feeling. How would you describe McGrovern?
I think people that are very interested in building community. So I don't know if that's a certain personality type, but people that want to be connected with their neighbors, want to experience the community on foot and through green spaces. And I'd say that's, we have McAllister College in our neighborhood. We have St. Thomas University. We have St. Kate's University just to the south. So there's a big university presence, but there's, from little children all the way up through seniors. So we really have a pretty diverse population.
And with that population, I'm sure there's a lot of different things that are important to a lot of different people for different reasons. You all have something going on now, community planning or community planning initiative.
That's right.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what some of the issues are within that community plan or city planning and ideal for the neighborhood?
Sure, yeah. So the community plan is something that all district councils are required to submit to the city. It's a 10-year plan, and so we do it on average about every 10 years. And it's supposed to cover all the different aspects that would impact our neighborhood. So everything from environmental issues, zoning for housing and land use, transportation issues, density issues, livability issues, everything that would impact the community members. So what we've decided to do is we really wanted to, instead of just doing this plan in a box, we really wanted to reach out to our community members, and we set a goal of reaching at least 10% with our first outreach blast, which consisted of a survey that could be done online or on paper in person. And essentially what we were asking our residents was, what do you think McAllister-Groveland Community Council should keep doing? What should we improve? What should we stop doing? And what should we start doing over the next 10 years? So picture what your ideal community would be in 10 years. So we set this goal of reaching out to 10% of our community, and we achieved that through different impressions, like I said, online survey, through different forums, meetings with the business community, and really just tried to reach a diverse part of our neighborhood. So we've done that, and we've had an iteration of the plan that was showcased at our annual meeting in April, and again gave our community a chance at input into the plan. Some things have changed since then based on that input. And over the next month of July, we're going to be holding 3 forums to invite more input and talk about different issues that have come through during our input process. So the 2 that will be remaining will take place on July 23rd and July 28th at 6:30 p.m. at McAllister College, and people that are interested in more information can certainly go to our website, mattgrove.org. So after this forum input process, we'll be working really hard again on another iteration, and it'll be showcased again at the Matt Grove Fest on September 6th, again for more input.
Do you find it hard to organize in an area where you have so many universities and maybe some of those students won't be here in 10 years?
Yeah, I think we have a really good partnership with our universities, specifically McAllister and St. Thomas University. They're in our neighborhood, and we have a vested interest in working with them, and they have a vested interest in working with us. So McAllister College, the students are, actually a lot of them do stick around in the neighborhood. I know we have a board member who came to McAllister for college and has lived in Matt Groveland for 20 or 30 years. So we actually do think that the colleges actually recruit people to our neighborhood, and that's kind of our goal, is to make this a desirable place to live so that young people stay and thrive in our neighborhood. It's always a challenge with more mobile populations, apartment dwellers and university students. They're not there during the summer, so maybe they wouldn't be engaged year-round, but we're trying hard to make sure that we do things that connect with those populations that maybe are less inclined to work with us.
And what are some of the visions, what are some of the visions that the District Council 14 has for McGroveland? Ideally, what would that look like and feel like?
Sure. I think that we've had a really strong history of environmental innovation in general, but I can speak specifically to the environmental work. We started recycling, the St. Paul recycling program years ago, and then grew it citywide, and we've done the same thing with organics collection, started in Matt Groveland, and now Ramsey County organic sites have opened since then. So I think that we plan to continue that innovation in the environmental area. I think we've seen a lot of interest in our community plan input process on housing for multiple generations. We don't have much senior living housing, and so but we have an aging population. So we want them to be able to stay in our neighborhood and feel like they can stay instead of having to move somewhere else. So I think we are. I can't say for sure because our final plan isn't out yet, but I think we're seeing input saying we should be striving towards that. Walkability is a big thing that's come out of our community plan process, so making sure that our streets are safe for pedestrians and that we have thriving businesses that are close by to walk to. I think those are some of the key themes we've seen.
Are there current zoning issues concerning housing?
I've been on the board now for about a year and a half, and so that's been my foray into zoning issues. And what I've seen so far is there are some challenges with some people want to see more dense housing. There are environmental benefits to it. When we speak about walkability, it's nice to have dense housing options, but other people who have lived in the neighborhood for a while or who moved to the neighborhood because they like the kind of smaller scale setting are a little bit worried about big buildings coming in and changing the landscape of the neighborhood. So it can be quite challenging, actually, and it's interesting to see that process unfold at the community level. And then we also make recommendations to the city on zoning. So I think it is a challenging concept, and it's again why one of the reasons we exist is to make sure we engage the different perspectives and come to an agreeable solution.
So speaking of solutions,
yes.
Right now what is maybe a little bit of an issue is the trash hauling or trash collection and all these different trucks coming and collecting trash. What's from your perspective, why is that such an issue? What are some of the things people are saying about that?
Sure. So there are typically two ways trash is collected in a neighborhood. One, the resident signs up for their own hauler and pays their own bill monthly or quarterly or yearly. And and that's an open collection system. So as long as the trash hauler is licensed to collect trash in that city, then they can come to your house and pick up your trash for you. The other option is that the city organizes collection for the whole city. And in that case, residents may or may not have a choice in hauler. There could be one hauler for the whole city, there could be multiple, it just depends on the model. But the city is the entity that does the contracting for that service, similar to the way our recycling is collected right now through a single hauler. And it comes through on our property taxes. So St. Paul is an open hauling city. And what that means is that there are many, many haulers going up and down our alleys and streets every day. And many residents are concerned with that extra traffic. The city, on the city level, concerned about wear and tear on the roadways. On the bigger level, we're concerned about the air emissions from the trucks, the many trucks. It's just not an efficient method of collection. So we're very interested, the Community Council is very interested in seeing the city move to organized trash hauling. And because we'd like to be the innovators, we're happy to get it started, but we don't have that power as a district council. So what we're proposing doing, we're applying for a grant right now, is to hold a stakeholder process throughout the city with other district councils to get input from the community and understand what are the barriers to implementing organized collection. This has been a challenging issue to accomplish in the past. In Minnesota, only 30% or so of cities have organized trash collection versus 70+% nationally. So it's a different system. And we'd really like to start the conversation and come up with some workable solutions so that the city can move towards organized trash collection to reduce the wear and tear on the streets, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, reduce impacts to air quality, and this will, this is, I think, one of the most appealing things is reduce costs for residents. City of Minneapolis has organized trash collection, and they pay 30% less than St. Paul residents do for more services. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's so contested? What are the cons? If you were that resident who was against consolidating trash hauling, what are some of your issues?
All these reasons that I'll name now are very valid, but I think that the pros outweigh the cons. So the cons, though, that I've heard are people have enjoyed their relationship with their trash hauler. That sounds funny if you aren't living in a neighborhood where you get to choose, but working with smaller businesses, I think, is appealing to a lot of people, and I think people worry that in an organized system, you're going to lose the smaller haulers, and that's just not the case. It doesn't have to be that way. So, so I think that relationship that people have had with their haulers for many years, and they feel like they're going to lose some services by organizing. I think some people just don't want the government to take over another service for them, and since it hasn't been government controlled before, they're worried about it moving towards that. Again, nationally, it's a service that's provided by the municipality, so it's just because it's a change for us. I think that's really challenging for people. But those are, I think, the main ones that I hear. I think people currently who are against it really like that freedom of choice, and they're worried about driving haulers out of business.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So there's an event coming up September 6th, McGroveland Fest. Talk about the festival and how long you've been doing it.
Sure. So we debuted this neighborhood block party last year, and I think the inspiration was to draw people in and get some input on this community plan, because that was our new initiative then. And it was really successful last year, and we think we can make it even better this year. And so September 6th, there'll be a block party on Grand Avenue. There'll be live bands, there'll be food, there'll be a movie shown at the end of the night. So just really getting people out into the streets, engaging with one another, experiencing the great things that our community has to offer, and also providing input on our community plan. So I think it'll be a really, really fun event. It was really fun last year, and it's going to cater to our entire neighborhood. So if you want to just come and listen to music, you can do that. You want to come for a movie, you can do that. I think it'll be really fun.
You're on the Environment Committee?
Yes,
is that correct?
yes.
How does the Environment Committee work and contribute to the District Council, or is it integral to it? How does it?
Yeah, so our District Council has multiple committees that neighbors can participate on, and all board members participate on at least one committee. And so the Environment Committee has a strong history of pushing innovation. So we develop different programs that either that serve our community. So for example, we have Matt Grove Moves, which just ended in the middle of June, and it encourages residents to get to their location via their own feet, by bike, any other creative way that doesn't involve a motorized vehicle. So getting more exercise, but also reducing their environmental impact at the same time. And that residents can fill out a form, show that they've completed 15 trips within that time period, and then enter for prizes. So that's a really fun thing we do. We also started an organics recycling program in 2012, and it's a organics recycling drop-off that residents paid an annual fee to participate in, and then had 24-hour access to drop off their compostable waste at this bin. And now the city and the county are helping us make it free of charge to the residents, because they've now rolled it out countywide where they have drop-off sites. So we do that. We recently did a grant to offer fix-it clinics where residents could bring in broken items and have someone help them learn to repair it themselves.
Oh, cool.
So we just provide programming and input to the district council on issues that have an environmental impact.
What was it that sparked your interest about becoming involved in the district council?
Well, I moved to the neighborhood 5 years ago now, and immediately made a really close connection with my neighbors. But I'm really interested in environmental issues. I work in the environmental field and was really interested in volunteering my time. And, I went to a meeting, and it was a small group, but it was people that were really, really motivated to get stuff done. And I really liked the grassroots aspect of it. And so I think that's one of the really neat things about volunteering with a community council is you're making an impact in your direct neighborhood. So instead of just donating money to a cause that might be dear to your heart but is further away and you kind of can't see the impact, it's really neat to see change made in your neighborhood. So my involvement in the environment committee, for example, I participated very heavily in getting this organics recycling drop-off site started. So it's pretty neat now for me to see that site up and running and thriving with hundreds of members. It's just, you see that difference. You can estimate the environmental impact and actually feel like you've made a real difference in your neighborhood.
And tell us the website again if someone wants to get involved.
Yes, definitely. So www.macgrove.org, all one word. And we love new people to come participate and bring new ideas. And under the what we do is where you'd find information about our committees and programs.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Joanna, for joining us
Thank
today.
you for having me. I appreciate it.
More after this. Right now, we're talking with Board Member Ann White and Executive Director Julie Ryder from District Council 13. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi.
Thanks for talking with us today. We have quite a bit to talk about, particularly in, first of all, before we get into that, can you, one of you tell me what defines District 13? What areas does that?
District 13 is the Union Park District Council, and our northern border is University Avenue. Our southern border is Summit. And then we go from Lexington on the east to the river on the west. So it's a pretty diverse cross-section there of that part of St. Paul.
And tell me what neighborhoods is included in District 13?
Well, there are multiple neighborhoods. It used to be 3 councils, Merriam Park, Snelling Hamlin, and Hamlin Lexington, and they were joined together in 2007. The majority of the neighborhood is a mix of single-family homes and apartment buildings on tree-lined streets. A lot of it is very pretty. There are also some business nodes in the district, including the whole Midway Shopping Center north of I-94, between I-94 and University Avenue. So those are 3 great big blocks up there. And also up north north of I-94, there's a high rise called Skyline Tower with about 1,000 East African, predominantly East African immigrants living there. And then we have Denoyer Park, which is right by the Mississippi River, which is a beautiful neighborhood in and of itself. There's a tiny little jewel of a neighborhood called Iris Park, which is right up by University Avenue near Fairview. So it's a real mix of different things in the neighborhood.
And what about the soul, the feeling of when you're in District 13? I'm sure it's, you know, different in different places, but how would you characterize that?
You know, there are a lot of houses in District 13 that were built at in the in the teens or the 20s, and people are very proud of their beautiful woodwork and the designs of the old houses, and they tend to be very well kept up in general. So that's a quality to the neighborhood, a traditional quality that I think people value.
Yeah, I agree. And we both live in the district actually. And one of the reasons that I chose to live here is that there is such variety. There are lots of university students that live in our district because we've got St. Thomas and Concordia within our district, and Hamlin and McAllister close by. And I really enjoy that. There's a variety of things going on and ages of people and renters and homeowners and a lot of businesses to walk to. It's a vibrant place. Okay.
So there are some developments that, new developments that are happening in District 13 that maybe are creating a bit of controversy. Can you talk about what those are?
Sure. I'll start by talking a little bit about the intersection of Snelling and Selby. Right there at the corner, the Associated Bank building is going to be taken down, and in its place will be put 5 stories of apartments with Whole Foods at the street level. It'll be about twice as big, I think, as the Whole Foods that currently exists on Grand, so that one will be closed. And when neighbors in the area started learning about this development, there was some concern because the intersection is really congested already with a lot of traffic. And people were concerned about bikeability and pedestrian safety. And so we actually, as a district council, did some proactive things to try to mitigate some of those concerns and actually affect change. And one thing that Ann did as the land use chair is put together a task force of residents, small business owners, representatives from the city public works, MnDOT, and also staff and volunteers from the district council to all sit at the table together and talk about concrete solutions that we could recommend to make changes in that area. And we actually did come out with some recommendations to make some small infrastructure changes in the intersections nearby there that will make, we think, a big difference in making it more walkable and sort of try to steer some of the traffic away from that heart of that intersection.
So there is a huge residential tower, the Skyline Towers, and there's some work that you've been doing, Ann, with that in regard to the corridor. Right. Why don't you talk about that?
You know, when the new green line was being planned, there were 3 places where there were no stations. One was at Hamlin and Victoria and Western. And a whole coalition of different groups got together to fight to get those 3 stations put in. And Skyline Tower became a part of that and began, a few of the residents began coming to meetings and helping to advocate for the Hamlin station. And then out of that, they formed a leadership team that has been working on issues to improve the building and the area around the building. There was no sidewalk along St. Anthony Avenue, south of the building, and it was very dangerous. There are lots of kids in the building, and they got a sidewalk put in, working with the Union Park District Council. And now they see the opportunity. They have 2 big projects they're working on. One is to build an international marketplace somewhere near Skyline Tower. And the other is to get some green space right near Skyline Tower, including a soccer field, because they have lots of young people who want to play soccer and no place to play it. And the elders need some place to walk and sit and enjoy a green space. And all they have around there at the moment is a sea of cement and parking lots and things like that.
So friendly streets, what is that?
You want to take it?
Why did you?
The Friendly Streets Initiative was actually an independent initiative that started to do community events around placemaking and around making streets and areas of the city more pedestrian friendly and more livable. And so we, as the Union Park District Council, have partnered with the Friendly Streets folks to put on some of these events. And we had one recently in an area near the Snelling and Selby intersection that I was talking about earlier, because the residents right there in that area were particularly concerned about increased traffic coming down their street and so on with the development. So what we did is we had actually infrastructure changes modeled right in the street, like a rain garden and a parking spot, a parklet on the street, but there was sports in the street. We had a basketball hoop. And then we had a gallery of images, like traffic circles and other kinds of diverters and medians and street art and things that people could vote on and say, I really like this for my area or my street, or I really don't like this idea for my street. And we had surveys. And the idea is that everyone comes out and has free food and live music and has entertainment, and then can also think about ways to really make their street a better place to live. And the Friendly Streets Initiative has been having these street parties around the city. We have a really exciting one coming up on Fairview. There's a light rail stop right at Fairview University, but to access it from Union Park, you have to go under this horribly dark underpass, if you're familiar with it, right under 94. And so what we're trying to do is have an underpass under party, where we will highlight the underpass and do the same thing, where we'll get the Friendly Streets folks to come in and bring great ideas for changes that we can make to make it much more pedestrian friendly and accessible for both bikes and walkers and public transportation users and so on. So
Friendly Streets is aiming to get different people to come out. So there are a lot of things to interest young people.
mm-hmm.
So there were children's activities to do at the Friendly Streets that was done. And we think the party under the bridge on Fairview is going to attract youth, hopefully, because it's sort of a hip, fun kind of thing to do.
So I think the projects are really exciting because it's great community engagement. It's a great community event, but it also is a way for people to feel like they have some input into changes that can be made in the neighborhood. So I love that combination. It's a really fun activity to be involved in.
Yeah.
Why is a district council important to the life of a community?
I joined the district council in 2006, and I actually I retired at that point because I wanted to work on community issues. And what I saw was that this was a great way for people to really to get involved in their community and actually influence the way things happen. So one of the things we do on the land use committee is we, when somebody wants to put in a new building or change something, they often have to get a variance to be able to do it if it doesn't fit within the regulations. And they come to us for us to review it. And we're the people who live here. And so we really know, what would work and what would work. And we either, we only make recommendations. We don't have the power to actually vote on something. But we can recommend or not recommend a particular variance. And that's an important thing to be able to do. The other reason that I joined the district council was that I knew the planning for the Green Line was going on, was beginning, and a coalition was being set up of all the district councils along the Green Line to be able to deal with this huge project. And I was really interested in that. I felt as if for St. Paul, it was critical to get this light rail line for the city to thrive and be connected to Minneapolis in an efficient way for people to get around. And so part of the reason I joined the district council was to work on that. And different people join for different reasons. They often have an issue that's right directly in their neighborhood, a house next door that draws them to it, and then they become interested in the larger neighborhood and connected with more of the neighborhood. And I think it's a very unusual system, the district council system, and I just think it's terrific.
Yeah. I think the fact that St. Paul has the district council system demonstrates how important it is for the city decision makers to hear from the community. It's really a structured way for all of us community members to speak to the city decision makers about a variety of decisions. It's not just a neighborhood association. It does function as a neighborhood association, and that part is fun. But it's also really important that we have an opportunity to talk with decision makers through the district council. So it's one of the great things about this job, I think, is that you have the fun kind of community engagement, event planning side of things, but you also have the real policy side of things where you really get to go down to City Hall and speak on behalf of certain things that your community feels strongly about, and people will listen. So it's a really exciting place to be.
Well, and we actually mention our city council. We have part of our district in 2 city council wards, and so we have a really close relationship with our city council members. Where we have Ward 1 and Ward 4, and they work closely with us on the Snelling-Selby issues. They were very much involved, and so we send policy issues through them to the district council, and they kind of carry our ideas to the council. So they play an important part. And then, on occasion, when we need the mayor to come and be involved, for example, when we were trying to get green space around Skyline Tower, we got the mayor to come, and the residents had collected 400 postcards from residents saying why they needed the green space, all the different reasons, and we presented that to the mayor, and so got him and his office engaged. So it's just really, it's a powerful thing, even though, and we have to keep emphasizing this, we don't actually vote on something and make it happen, but we make a recommendation, and that's taken seriously by the city.
Mm-hmm. Well, you all have something exciting coming up on August 2nd. Can you tell me about that event?
Sure. This is our 2nd annual ice cream, peanut butter, and jam coming up on August 2nd. It's called ice cream, peanut butter, and jam for a really important reason. There's free ice cream from Izzy's. That's the ice cream part. The peanut butter part is that we're asking that everyone bring a jar of peanut butter as a donation for Food Shelf. And the jam part is, of course, the live music. And there'll be live music in Miriam Park, which is where the event is located, from noon until 9. From noon till about 4, we're having kids events and a lot of kind of more family-focused music. And then the event will continue on until 9 o'clock in the evening. So it's a big fundraiser for us. It's a wonderful way for us to work with Parks and Rec and co-sponsor this event. It's a great community building event. So we're hoping everyone will come out on August 2nd to Miriam Park.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, you should come.
I will. I will. Can you all tell me, do you have a website for your district, and how do people get involved if they want to get involved?
We do have a website. It's unionparkdc.org. And they can email me at julie@unionparkdc.org if they're interested in getting involved, or just check out the website. We have a lot of interesting committees. Anne is the chair of land use. We've got a neighborhood issues committee. We've got Parks and Rec and fundraising. There's a lot going on, and a lot of task force being developed. A lot of things to do within the district. So
Yeah, and we're, and more and more, Julie is very active in getting out into the community and meeting people. We're doing a lot more knocking on doors and introducing the district council. And it's just a terrific way, and people can get involved at whatever level they're interested in. And so we try to find out what their particular interest is and see if we can plug them in one way or another to participate. Even if it's just coming to the event on August 2nd, or we have another event that we're going to be doing with the business district on the 9th of August, where we're going to walk from the business district at Snelling and Selby up to the Green Line Snelling station and back again. So that's encouraging people to walk more and seeing how many steps it is to walk from the Snelling Selby area up to the station.
Well, thank you ladies so much for hanging out with me this afternoon.
Thank you so much for your time.
It was fun. Thanks.
Thanks. We'll be right back. That's it for this month. Thanks for watching.